All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and to everyone who's watching us live from various parts of the world. Namaste to you and warm greetings to you on behalf of Team DentistChannel.Online. We welcome you to yet another Power Pack session on the third day of the world's first virtual Implant-Expo. We hope you all have been doing well, you're keeping safe, and you are doing superb in your dental practice. We have with us a very special speaker once again, all the way from Germany. He is Georgio Haddad. Ladies and gentlemen, Georgio Haddad is the Dental Strategic Partnerships Lead at Formlabs. In his initial role, Georgio successfully shaped Formlabs' distribution channel in the Middle Eastern nations, in the Northern African nations, as well as Turkey. Prior to Formlabs, he set up and led the digital dentistry department of one of Formlabs' resellers. During that time, he developed solid relationships with digital dentistry market leaders and gained experience in 3D printing. Georgio holds a B in mechanical engineering from the American University of Beirut. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting to you, Georgio Haddad.
Thank you, Ruben, for this exciting introduction. I was not expecting that, so thanks a lot. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning for some, good evening for others, I guess. Thank you for joining us today. So today our discussion topic is how Formlabs Dental, the company I work for, can be your ally for quick and affordable digital adoption. So thanks, Ruben, for the introduction. That was a bit like my bio. What I would like to focus on and leverage during our presentation today is my previous experience in kind of shifting mindset of the whole Lebanese market into digital dentistry. Trying to
please share your screen.
Okay, you cannot see. Okay, sorry. Share screen. Can you see my screen properly?
All right, please proceed. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. So yeah, during this presentation, I'd like to leverage my previous experience in the Lebanese dental market, where we introduced digital dentistry from intraoral scanning to CNC milling and 3D printing, and the journey of shifting the mindset of dentists in this market, and how this effort and continuous effort in educating and pushing in the market ended up with a successful adoption to the digital dentistry technology. So today on our agenda, I will start with giving an introduction to Formlabs, the 3D printer manufacturer that I actually work for at the moment as Dental Strategic Partnerships Lead. And then we'll go through a bit the workflow, the digital dentistry workflow that leads to 3D printing and the different applications that are empowered by 3D printing. And then I'd like to share what we know at Formlabs and my experience in terms of the essential for a successful 3D printing adoption. What are the things that are kind of hidden that you should watch out for, the things that will make your adoption journey much easier and straightforward, and other things. And then we'll finish with essential takeaways. So a bit more about Formlabs. Formlabs is quite a young company, not so young anymore, maybe in 2020. We're around 600 employees globally with 7 offices around the world. Formlabs manufactures and develops hardware, software, and resins for 3D printing. And that's what we do. And we cater for professionals from the engineering industry, from the jewelry industry, from the biomedical industry and other industries, and especially for the dental industry. This is a bit about our roadmap and the history of our product roadmap. We started back in 2012, late 2011 with a Kickstarter campaign with the Form 1. And I think the real shift or revelation in dentistry started to happen with the Form 2. In IDS 2017, we saw a big hype from dental professionals, dentists, and lab technicians alike wanting to have a professional, but a desktop and affordable 3D printer for their dental applications. Back then, the main application was enabling the printing of intraoral scans, so lab technicians can finish their restorative work and do the fit testing and the ceramic layering of crowns. So dentistry was picking up. Dental professionals were constituting more and more of our customer base. So what happened is that eventually in 2019, we launched a specific dental 3D printer, which is the Form 3D. At Formlabs, our mission is expanding access to digital fabrication so anyone can make anything. And expanding access comes with affordable solutions and user-friendly solutions. And I think that's what we're gonna be focusing on today in this presentation. So anyone can make anything, and dental professionals are no exceptions to that. That's why in late 2019, we launched our dental business unit. What embodies this dental business unit is a team of dental experts, lab technicians, dentists, and other professionals who have worked for years in the dental industry. A flagship 3D printer specified for biocompatible printing and dental application, which is the Form 3D that you see in this picture, as well as a dental service plan, which is like kind of a service plan and support plan that is given by dental experts to our customers and resellers. In areas where we do not sell directly, we have our partners and distributors who are certified and trained by those experts. And eventually, as well, developing resins to unlock applications using this equipment and empowered by the experts we have. And we do develop some of our biocompatible resin and other resins in-house at Formlabs in our ISO certified production facility. So that's it about Formlabs, basically. Now let's jump a bit more into the technical part. So to recap a bit, what is the digital dentistry workflow, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. A standard digital dentistry workflow, regardless of the end application, whether you're trying to produce a crown, whether you're trying to produce a custom tray, whether you're trying to produce any other application, a splint digitally, there are these four main steps. One is scanning. So scanning can be an intraoral scan or can be a conventional impression that got poured into a gypsum model and then scanned in a lab to produce this digital file of the patient anatomy. And then once you have the scan, which is the information of the patient, digital information of the patient, you jump to a CAD software where you plan or design your file, your restoration, your appliance. Then after that, the question mark is, the black box is, how do you manufacture? There are different ways of manufacturing. Today in this presentation, we're gonna focus on one part and one production technique in this digital workflow, which is 3D printing. And then the final step will always be that you have to finish and deliver the part to the patient. And here is a bit the part that we'll be focusing on today, which is the manufacturing and 3D printing. So if you look at the manufacturing and 3D printing part, it will be divided into different steps. It's not as simple as clicking a button and printing. There are some interesting information and different steps to follow to get to the final part. It starts with choosing the resin, the material based on the application that you want to do, based on the restoration or the appliance you are actually aiming to produce. Then there's a step in between which is the software, the printing software. We're going to talk about that and the importance of it being easy to use. And then the 3D printing part itself, and then the post-processing. So to start with, you first have to ask yourself the question, okay, I'm looking for a printer now, but which application exactly am I looking to unlock? What do I want to do with my printer? Do I simply print study models out of my intraoral scan? Do I want to produce temporarily for my patients who are visiting instead of doing it conventionally or sending to the lab? So that's why we're starting by talking about which application you want to do, because that determines the next step, which is choosing the resin. Once you've determined which application or which restoration or appliance you want to manufacture, you can choose from the different resins that your manufacturer is providing. In Formlabs' case, we manufacture more than 10 different materials and resins. Some of those are biocompatible, some of those are not biocompatible, depending on the application. So, and we're always looking to expand our portfolio of applications, because the more we empower our customers with new applications and resins, the more they're gonna use the printer, the more they're gonna provide a better care for their patients. First, looking at the non-biocompatible resins, mostly used for model production. We have 4 different types of resins that serve model production and different applications and appliances for model production. So for example, the grays can produce very effectively aligners with remarkable and transparent surface finish. Another quicker way to manufacture aligner is actually to 3D print the sub setups in our draft resin. Usually our customers use that for a quick retainer, because this resin prints quickly and then you can deliver even faster the retainer to your patient. This is a very special resin for a very special application, because it relates back to my professional journey when we're trying to drive the adoption of intraoral scanners in the market. And always the missing part of the puzzle was, how is my lab technician gonna print the intraoral scan of my patient so they can manufacture the restoration, do the ceramic layering, do the fit check. So this is called our model resin. It is fine-tuned basically to 3D print models with dies. This is the equivalent of the gypsum model your lab technician sends you. And this resin has to be, and this print has to be of high accuracy, because it serves as the golden value and the final check of for the lab technician before sending it back to the dentist and the finals. And same thing applies if you're manufacturing chairside and you want a model and you're not going modelless. Same thing applies if you have your actually in clinic lab, practice lab, and so you will need that resin. And finally, in the non-biocompatible range for model production, there is the white resin, which is a standard resin that is aesthetically very, very similar to study models that dentists are used to. So now moving on to our biocompatible range of resins. So the biocompatible resins are designed for applications and restorations that need to be biocompatible, that are in contact either for short-term or long-term with the mouth of the patient. The first batch of these biocompatible resins are the Dental LT Clear, Temporary, CB, and Custom Tray. We're gonna talk about them a bit more in details. So the Dental LT Clear is basically to manufacture splints and night guards, and is a long-term biocompatible material for splints and occlusal guards. As for the Temporary CB, this is a very interesting resin that we recently launched end of June, which is made to manufacture temporary restorations up to 7-unit bridges. So you can use this resin and the printer to manufacture the temporary restorations of your patients. Another one is the custom tray resin, also recently launched. For certain cases, it is known that it's better to tailor a custom tray to the patient, so you can get a very accurate impression of the patient anatomy. And that's why we have this biocompatible resin to enable that application if you would like to do so as well. The rest of the biocompatible resin range at the moment are the ones enabling applications for surgical guide. I think this is very important for our audience today because of the subject of this lecture and this whole exhibition. And then we have also what enables the application of dentures, digital dentures, by printing the base and the denture teeth to create digital dentures that are affordable and as aesthetic and durable as conventional ones. This is a photo of our the surgical guide application. You can see the drill sleeve inside the surgical guide that is inserted after the post-processing is finished for the surgical guide. This sleeve helps guiding the drill to the correct depth and position while you're doing your guided surgery. And then this is a nice photo of the different base shades that you can get with our digital denture material. Finally, I'd like to point out that since these are biocompatible resins and are highly regulated, you should check on our website. If you go to Formlabs Dental and just check for resin region availability, you can check which resins are available in which areas of the world. So you can either contact your reseller to purchase them, or in other areas where Formlabs is present, directly contacting Formlabs. The next step after you've chosen your application and the resin, and the good question to ask yourself. Since you're moving from a CAD file, you have a design of an application or restoration, and then you want to actually manufacture that and 3D print it. So some questions to ask yourself about this step when you're acquiring a 3D printer. One of those questions is like the integration of the CAD software with the printing software. For example, at Formlabs, we aim to make this experience from moving from the design to the printing as smooth as possible. That's why we partner with main CAD software developers like 3Shape, Zirconzan, and ExoCAD to make that process very seamless and very smooth. So you finish your design by one click. This gets sent to our printing software, so you can reduce the time spent on the PC and actually automatically move on to the printing procedure. So this is one thing to be asked. Another question to ask yourself is if there are any compatibility issues with the CAD software you're using and the printing software. Usually the printing software, all of the printing softwares take as input an STL file. So the question really to be asked here, if the CAD software you're using outputs an STL file, which is now more and more common. Another thing is that is really important to take into consideration is that between the CAD file and the printing, there are some parameters to adjust in the CAD software to compensate for some offsets in the printing. And this is a lot of guesswork and a lot of development to happen on the customer side. So as an example, at Formlabs, our experts do that homework and do these experimentations to fine tune and recommend some parameters that you can input in your design software to take out the guesswork and the design setting from your side. And you can find all of these documentation online. For example, for surgical guide production, we have recommended value for Implant Studio on 3Shape regarding the wall thickness, the offset from the teeth, and the offset from the surgical guide to the sleeve. So once you put the drill sleeve inside the surgical guide, it fits perfectly with enough friction to retain it, but not too tight so it doesn't go in. So these are good questions to ask yourself. Hey, what printer am I looking for? Does it cover that? Another thing is before printing, you have the software piece, the 3D printer software piece. Is this software easy to use enough? Is it user-friendly? I've worked a lot with dentists and assistants and hygienists in the past, and I know that time is super valuable and the patience for learning is not maybe that long. So you should look for 3D printing software that is very easy to use, that is very streamlined and has as many automated functions as possible. I can give you some examples on Preform, which is our 3D printing software that helps prepare the CAD file that you have designed to actually enable the printing of it. So once you get that CAD file in OBJ or STL, you can either export it directly through the integration to Preform or import it manually. And then using this user-friendly interface, you can rotate the parts so critical anatomy is facing up. Why facing up? Because as a second step, you need to generate the supports for that printing part. So you could think of the supports as the equivalent of a scaffoldings that are used to construct buildings. So without these scaffoldings, you cannot actually print on this on the printer. So you need to create these scaffolding, which are called supports. And this function, for example, in Preform Formlabs 3D printing software, slicing software, is completely automated. You just rotate the part and say auto-generate selected. So you should look for a software that is easy to use, that has as many automated functions as possible, and where the user interface is very clear. So if today you are not the one using that software, you can delegate that super easily to your hygienist or your assistant. And then the final step is actually sending the job from that software to your printer. Now you can do that directly when you're on the same network, or actually you can go above and beyond. For example, at Formlabs, because we've enabled something that we call remote printing. Imagine the scenario, it's late at night, you're out of your clinic, you want to go back home, but you don't want to spend more time in your clinic, but you'd rather go first see your family before finishing some jobs that you want to finish, some designs you want to finish. So in that case, what you can do is you can go to your printer in your clinic, the Formlabs printer, and then you can set up everything that's needed to start the print, then click on Prime Printer, and then go home earlier, spend time with the family, and then just at night before going to sleep, finish your CAD design, and from home send this job directly to the printer. And then the next day when you come to the clinic, the job is done. So this is like a nice extra feature that adds to kind of the nice user experience that we try to build and is part of our DNA at Formlabs. And then another one is our internet-based solution, which is the dashboard. It helps you if you have multiple printers again in the clinic. You can do some job and batch management. You can track the material consumption, how much have you used. You can start as well prints remotely, as we've talked about. And you can, from anywhere, view the status of the prints, the status of your printers, even if someone else is actually using it. So these are nice features to have and nice features to ask for or to get once you decide to go into a 3D printing purchase. Now, we're done with the software bit of things. We're moving to the hardware. Questions to ask: how easy is this printer to use? What are usually the harder parts of printing workflow? Is this printer manufacturer providing an ease of use, streamlined experience? I can give you some examples of what we're doing at Formlabs to streamline this and make it very easy for dental professionals to learn and maintain. So to prepare the printer for a print job, the first thing we do actually is what we've seen is inserting a resin tank and then this build platform, and then finally the cartridge. So the resin tank comes in a very nice format where you can actually, when you're not using it and you want to store it, you can remove it and store it in kind of a lunchbox that sits on your shelf and is ready and clean and not messy to reuse whenever you want. Our build platform is very straightforward, has a very nice feature, clicks in very handfully, and you can actually get several build platforms, so you can switch from one job to the other. And finally, our cartridge system is very neat. You can store it in your shelves at the clinic, and you can easily slide it in for printing, and it makes it very easy to switch from resin to another. If now you're printing surgical guides, you're done with your surgical guides, you want to print a splint, it's very easy to take out the tank, take out the cartridge, put in new ones, and then you're done. And then if you want to do surgical guide again, you do the same, and it's very straightforward and it's neat. So this is also like a major consideration. Unfortunately, the whole printing workflow doesn't finish after the printing is done. The next step is actually post-processing. You want to look for a streamlined and clever post-processing that is not messy. Okay. Many printing solutions out there sell the printer and maybe sometimes the software with it, and then say for post-processing, go get that device from that place and then that curing light from that place. And there's no clear documentation about the whole workflow. So that's a very, very interesting question to ask and something to look for. You want to purchase a complete solution and not part of the solution. So that's what we actually do at Formlabs, and we provide a solution for the post-processing that is a washing unit that we call the foam wash and a curing unit that we call the foam cure. Now, in the post-processing process, there are these 5 major steps. One is the part removal from the printer and the build platform. 2 is the rinsing, which we call the washing with IPA, which is highly concentrated in alcohol. And then there is the drying between the rinsing and the post-curing that happens in our foam cure machine, for example. And then the final part is removing supports and the polishing. We're going to see those in a bit more details in the next slides. So this is how you remove the part from the build platform. So you removed your job from the printer. And then once you remove the build platform from the printer, you actually take out the surgical guide from the build platform or any kind of restoration and appliance you have printed. And the tools that you're seeing in the picture actually come as part of one package. So also these are things interesting to look like the tweezer, the thing that you use to remove the parts from the build platform and other things. And then the washing. This is what we call the form wash at Formlabs. It's an automated washing process. You pour in it highly concentrated IPA and alcohol, and then you can simply put the parts in this mesh, and then this mesh goes down into and washes the parts in IPA, and it tumbles them a bit, and then you have parts that are washed and cleaned from the excess of the resin that was on the surface of the printed parts. That is not good for the final accuracy of the part. It needs to be washed away using this washing technique. Then the next step is to cure. Why do we cure? Because the printed parts, after they go out of the printer, there is still what we call a green state. So the parts themselves do not have the perfect mechanical properties yet, or the biocompatibility properties if it's biocompatible application that you're looking for. So final part would be the curing part. We do that in the form cure. And by the way, both the wash and cure, we take out the guesswork from you. We have a clear documentation on our website on how long you need to wash in the wash and how long you need to cure in the cure and at what temperature you have to set your cure. And finally is basically removing the supports. What you're seeing here is a very easy way of removing supports and is only possible with our Formlabs printer that use what we call low force stereolithography technology that enable small touch support points, or what we call the light touch support points on the printed part itself. So you can remove the supports very easily instead of doing that manually one by one. So here, this is very easy. Again, ease of use, streamlining the workflow, making it as efficient as possible, the documentation around the whole post-processing workflow with clear guidelines on how long to wash, how long to cure, and at which temperature, and finishing up with very easy to remove supports to get the final part, which happens to be in that picture, a surgical guide. So this is a picture, a more detailed picture on the support removal and how easy it is to get the final part out of the printer after the post-curing. So again, look for a post-processing that is streamlined, that is not messy, and that is very, very clear for you and removes the guesswork from your side. Another thing to look for when going for a 3D printer is a valid question to ask. Is the company that I'm partnering with empowering me the right way? Are they providing me with the right learning resources? Do they have the right documentation for the things I'm looking for? If I purchase this resin for the new application, do I have a clear application guide that says, first, after you scan, you go to the design, you use these design settings, you do this and this and this to get this final high precision and good quality part. So at Formlabs, the answer is yes, because we empower you with our documentation and resources and learning resources. We have detailed application guides, especially for our biocompatible applications, where we take you step by step through the scanning part, the designing part, the printing part, the post-processing, the delivery and treatment. So we describe all these steps step by step, so you can follow them and actually be able to produce right out of the box the applications and the restorations that we promise that you can produce. Other things are the educational webinars, especially during COVID times. We've done tons of content regarding that you can find on our website. And the beauty about this is these are not like, this is not content that just describe the printing process. It actually describes the whole workflow, partnering with different other manufacturers and software and CAD solution providers So we actually speak the same language as yours, describing the whole workflow and not just like a 3D printing part. Technical documentation, sometimes for documentation reasons, you need the technical data sheet or other things. These are things that should be very clear on the website and should be accessible. Other things are forums and blogs to answer some of your frequently asked questions, as long as support pages. So empower yourself, partner with someone who has actually these kind of resources to develop your clinic and develop your business. A great example of the resources that are really relevant to your workflow and then just not focused about 3D printing is the amazing webinars we did recently with the likes of 3Shape about clear aligner workflow and surgical guide workflow, on custom trays with Zirconzan, on model builder with Exocad, and on how to test drive your patient's smile with digital wax ups with digital smile design, for example. Go on our website, check out these webinars, check out these resources, get informed, and drive your decision making. So when you're getting into a new technology, it's very important to have expertise and knowledge and people who actually know what they're talking about to support you in your digital dentistry journey. So get a reliable service in your digital journey. We are very proud to be providing the dental service plan in regions that Formlabs is present directly. You could contact the dental service plan once you purchase a Form 3B. They'll get you an onboarding, special onboarding and unpacking call where they train you on the printer and the specific applications that you're looking for. And in areas where Formlabs is not present, we certify and train our partners and resellers to find that, to do that. And then we have a very good warranty and return material authorization system. So you have a standard 1-year warranty that is extendable up to 3 years. And if something goes wrong, then the printer is actually exchanged if that is confirmed by the reseller or by our service team. And then finally, in areas where we're not available directly, we have a very reliable reseller network. You can check that if you just Google Formlabs reseller, you can find your nearest reseller and contact them. Here are some like testimonials about good services that Formlabs are offering to empower their customers. So Formlabs offers some next level training and support, which is considered like you are always having an expert by your side to help you in any situation. Those facts are a game changer for us. There was a very nice testimonial from a dental service plan customer who saw the value in this onboarding training and the good service that our team is providing. So make sure that you have the right people around you, that you don't get demotivated because you don't know what to do, but you have someone to seek advice and support for. That was a bit fast. We're already at the end of this presentation. I want to jump maybe to the conclusion and takeaways, and then we can go and check out some of the questions that you are asking. Okay. Just checking out some questions that are popping up. Okay. Please don't hesitate to ask your questions in the Q&A. I think I will jump to the conclusion and takeaways and then take the questions. So some takeaways. The 3D printing is actually the future of dental. A lot of applications are being opened up just because of 3D printing. Our next big thing coming in Q4 is actually permanent crown 3D printing. We already talked about this in Chicago in midwinter, earlier in February. And this is very close to launch, where we actually can print permanent crowns using 3D printing and specific resins. So stay tuned for that. So definitely 3D printing is the future of dental. So some key takeaways. One, select an application that will justify your purchase. If you have an intraoral scan and you see that there is a must and a need to print dental models, great. That is your entry to 3D printing. Get the 3D printer, start with printing your dental models, your study models, to finish up and do some fit checking of your restorations. And don't hesitate to ask for trustworthy advice in your journey. Second, once you get into that, unlock new digital workflows with 3D printing. You got your printer for a specific application, be curious, ask for other applications, and advance your clinic and knowledge in that. A very common thing at the beginning of the 3D printing in dentistry was starting with printing simple dental models from intraoral scans, and then jumping actually directly after that to surgical guides, because it just made sense. Same printer, same everything, you switch the resin, you make sure you use a different build platform and a clean alcohol for the wash, because you have to conserve the biocompatibility of your surgical guide resin. And then you're good to go. You just switched applications. 3, set the proper expectations, start small and think big. Don't think that from day 2, you're gonna use all the applications and you're gonna know everything about the workflow and about 3D printing. Start small, but dream big. And then finally, partner with a company that provides, 1, a user-friendly and powerful workflow, whether it's the software, the printer, the consumables, and the post-processing, ideally the whole package. 2, learning resources and expertise to empower you. So make sure the company that you're partnering with has these kind of resources, because you want to develop, you want to make the most out of your investment. You don't want to get stuck with one application. You don't want to get stuck with questions that are being unanswered where you cannot use your printer anymore. So make sure that you partner with a provider that provides you with learning resources and expertise to empower you and your knowledge. And finally, someone that provides reliable support and service to keep you motivated and running. This is quite important. And finally, if you can get all of that in an affordable package, which is the case with Formlabs Dental, then the real question is, what are you waiting for? So yeah, I guess that was it, quick and efficient.
Let's start with the first question. What's the importance of a .stl file for 3D printing? Do we have to rescan again?
Okay, yeah, I think it's Dr. Bhala asking this question. So I'm not sure if I understood properly the question, but I'm gonna go through the workflow and then give a clear explanation that most probably will answer your question, whatever you meant there about STL files. So as a first step of the workflow, you have to get an intraoral scan if you're doing intraoral scans. And then depending on the manufacturer of that intraoral scan or the software you're using for that intraoral scan, some manufacturers enable the direct export of STL from that intraoral scan, or not. They have proprietary formats. But the thing is, out of the intraoral scan, even if you export to STL, you cannot directly 3D print the model or study model. You have to have an intermediate step where you prepare the model to be 3D printed, because an intraoral scan is simply a mesh of thin layer of a digital file. It cannot actually be 3D printed. That's why you have solutions and software like Model Creator at Exocad or Model Builder at 343 Shape, where you create the base for these models to be actually 3D printed. And for proper prints, you need a minimum amount of 3 mm word thickness, which is not available in surface scans of intraoral scans. So the question is, the answer is, from intraoral scanning, you have to go through a CAD software that creates that printable file for you. And usually these CAD software always export STL files out of the software. So, and then from there, you can actually 3D print them.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope that answered the question.
Next question.
I think the next question from Ramal, can the cartridge be reused? If so, how many times? Okay, yeah, so our standard cartridges come with 1 liter of volume, and depending on the type of resin that is inside, that's on average 1.1 or 1.2 kilograms of material. And when you open that cartridge and use it for the first time, the volume, the quantity that is the resin that is inside the cartridge, part of it goes into the tank. Now, after you finish your couple of prints, what you can do is you can store the tank away if you want to use another resin, and store the cartridges away. Then you can use them again whenever you need them. So if you've opened the cartridge and some of that resin went to the resin tank, you can just put both of them away and then reuse them again whenever you need to print with these resin. So yes, it can be reused. And for how many times? Basically, the cartridge itself is like until the shelf life is over of the resin, which is for, I think more, I can confirm that at least most of our resins 2 years shelf time. Okay. How much does it cost in India? Like, I don't want to turn this presentation into a sales presentation, so I'll ask you please to go on our website, contact one of our resellers in India. You can just Google Formlabs reseller, and then you can find a local reseller in there. Okay. Multiple Lloyd printing is possible with this printer. I didn't understand that.
Is multiple color printing, is it possible with this
color? No, so multiple color is not possible in this printer, but we have solutions outside of dental where you can actually color your resin and then print a different color, but for the same print job, you cannot change the color. Oh, okay, here we go. Yeah, and what is, yeah. So Turin is asking what is the cost of 1 liter of surgical guide resin. So it depends where you are based. And the other question is how many surgical guides can be printed in 1 liter of resin. I think the best way to answer that question is I'm gonna copy paste a link here. Just so our software that we talked about, which is Preform, which is a printing software, is a completely free of charge software. So you can download it, and once you download it, you can import any STL file in there. And once you import that, the software will tell you what is the volume of the part you imported in milliliters. And then you can extrapolate how many parts you can actually print per liter. I think that's the best way and the most accurate way to answer your question, Turin.
We have another question.
Yes.
It's very simple, nice presentation. Is it available in India? How much is the cost of the printer? How do we do shade selection in the printer?
Okay, so regarding how much it costs in India, please contact the reseller. I'm also gonna post in the chat for all panelists and attendees now the link to find resellers and partners of Formlabs in India, and then you can reach out directly to them. And then how you select the shade in the printer. So basically the resin you select, for example, in temporary CB resin, the resin you select is what dictates the shade that you're printing with. So each cartridge has a specific already specific shade. So for the temporary CB, we have A2, A3, C2, and B1. And then once you're printing with one of these cartridges, you're only now printing that shade. And then if you want to switch to another shade, you take out the cartridge, you take out the resin tank, and then you switch to the other resin tank and cartridge.